In the previous video we looked at this, the world's first phone that could play MP3s. That's not a spoiler, that's just how the video started. The spoiler is just how awesome this phone turned out to be. In this video I want to go deeper with some firmware modding and even some custom ROMs. First, I'm getting back into the Java sandbox to try a few more things I found since the previous video. A quick shout out to Jan at Siemens, who took the amazing SL45 and spearheaded this implementation of the world's first mobile Java engine. In doing so, creating the even more stunning SL45i. Well done, sir. And have a look here at GB Pinball. This is a Siemens mobile developed game. And, as they are the hardware developer for this phone, I would expect them to know the ins and outs of the hardware really well, and it doesn't disappoint. Gameplay is tight and fun. This is Revenge of the Gator quality pinballing right here. It shows that Siemens were really pushing themselves to the limit here. That blurry scrolling is the only real letdown. Next is Rats. It's a nice small game, with an indie developer feel to it. This is a good effort. Then there's Devastator, an action puzzle game. Though I find it a little bit hard to play. But a good game worth trying. This is Combat, and from all that background dithering on the graphics, this is obviously intended for colour displays. It's got big characters and fast action. Not my sort of game, but it looks interesting. I also want to mention Maze. It's just a 3D maze, kinda boring, but it shows potential of what could have been developed. This could be the basis of a really good grid-based role-playing game. I wish that could have happened. That would really be something. There's also a nice Java benchmark program called JBenchmark. This gives a good indication of the speed of this system. In the last video, I also said we would have a closer look at Ace Video, a video player implemented in Java for this phone. Amazingly, it can play video at 15 frames per second. If I play a static grayscale video image, it shows how this is doing some rudimentary grayscale levels on this monochromatic screen. It does this by having some pixels on only for some of the time, which ends up giving us 4 grayscale levels to give us this image. This reminds me of the original iPod, which had 4 grayscale levels by default, but hackers found a similar technique that they could exploit to display 16 levels of grey, which they also used to develop a video player. Shout out to viewer Leaky85, who pointed these hacks out in the comments to my iPod video. Ace Video has an associated video encoder. This is how I've been able to encode all these videos. The time has come to break out of the Java sandbox and play in the big leagues. These were the days when phones had no code signing. There was no need to jailbreak them. If you could work out how to flash the firmware and code for the CPU instruction set, then you were off to the races. In this case, a 16-bit 80C166 Siemens CPU. A very early modding scene grew around this phone as a result, and the best software to help you with this was vClay. It has everything you need for flashing and patching firmware. I had a lot of trouble connecting my phone though. I solved my problem from the last video by playing around with the Windows serial port settings. I found changing the flow control and switching it off or switching it to hardware didn't help much. And if I turn off the first in first out buffers, the errors get even worse. But if I drop them to their lowest settings, I'm now able to read-write firmware at 57,600 bits per second. It's not the 115K I was hoping for, but it's a ton better than the 19.2K from the last video. I can now do a full flash of this phone in only 25 minutes. With this success, I started using vClay, but I'm still having trouble connecting. vClay has lots of advanced serial port settings, mostly related to flow control and auto-triggering the flashing start process. After trying many configuration combinations, I found I could only connect to the phone if I timed pressing the power button at exactly the right time. I opened up my admittedly aftermarket Siemens serial cable and found there are only 3 wires connected. These are ground, transmit and receive. There's no data terminal ready or ready to send signals connected, as you would likely get in the original cable. This turned out to be not too big of a problem though. I've become quite good at the timing to hit the power button at the exact moment to start the flashing process. With this phone now reliably connecting to vClay, it's time to start doing some firmware modding. And there are hundreds of patches and tweaks available. It's actually quite overwhelming. Many have non-English descriptions, but I should be able to get some working. It looks like patching was very popular in Russia and Ukraine, with vClay itself being Ukrainian software. When loading a patch into vClay, we can see how it works. Each line has 3 sets of hexadecimal numbers. The first is the memory address, the second number has the original hex values, and the third set are the new hex values. If the original hex numbers are FF, that indicates it's unused space in the flash memory. This patch, for example, is inserting a block of code into some blank space, while above it is where the existing code is being modified to insert a jump to the new section. When applying a patch, vClay reads a block of firmware out, it patches it, and then it flashes it back into the memory. If the data that's read out doesn't match what vClay expects, then it throws up an error. This helps prevent patches from overriding each other, or just writing data to the wrong address. The first patch I want to test is this pseudo-polyphonic ringtones modifier. The SL45 has by default very basic ringtones. They're extremely shrill. So let's not listen to them too much. The patch says it will replace the ringtones in the discrete section with something better. So with the patch applied, let's have a listen. Okay, they're much more complex sounding. I'd say they're quite good. Even though they're not polyphonic, they do sound better than the original ringtones. Next, I have to try some of these graphical menu patches. I like the sound of that. These are changing up to 60 kilobytes of data, so they can take a moment or two to upload. The first one is by Color of Sky. This has replaced the menu system with a whole new launcher. It gives the phone a whole new look and feel. The graphics are quite elaborate. I tried 1 or 2 others, but I think this one by Candy Bull is easily my favourite. A spooky tree with cats and other objects located around it. Each object is an item in the menu system which you can select. This is awesome. This has to be one of the best phone menus I've ever seen. With all this creativity, and with this activity around patching, it led people to heavily customizing their phones back in the day. People then started sharing their personalized ROMs, and so a custom ROM scene was formed. I've been able to find some of these custom ROMs that people made back in the day. I'm going to flash them into my phone and have a look at some of the things people did with their SL45. I'm so glad I was able to increase the serial speed, so now it only takes 25 minutes to full flash each custom ROM. The first ROM I'm trying is by Tommy, and it's pretty cool. The startup animation is extremely scary. It looks like the language may be Polish. Please correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. The font has also been changed, and wow, it looks really cool. Otherwise, I'm not seeing many other major differences with this ROM. The next ROM is by Retaliator. It's got a Pikachu startup. This looks like another Polish language system, but this one supports a custom launcher. Very nice. Unfortunately, I'm not doing these custom ROMs the justice they deserve by only having a superficial look at them. There may be many tweaks and patches that change subtle details of how the phone works that I'm not going to be able to easily spot. For example, there's a tweak that can automatically answer incoming calls. It then uses the inbuilt voice recorder to greet the caller with your own pre-recorded message, and then it records the caller's response, turning your phone into your own localized voicemail system. That's a very clever mod indeed. But I am having a look through these ROMs to see how many changes I can spot. For example, in this one, the MP3 player has had some changes. There are new options for volume and bass and possibly treble on the screen. Some of these custom ROMs also seem to run the backlight brightness at a much lower level. I'm really enjoying seeing all the customizations and graphics that people have done. Here's one I found when you turn it on. It has a Windows XP startup. This one by Burger, for example, has a nice cat sitting on a fence during startup. The battery indicator has been modified to a percentage, and there's another number underneath, next to what looks like an envelope, possibly indicating the number of text messages. But then shutting it down, and yeah, that was a bit much. Hopefully there's nothing here that's unsafe for work. Things became a bit weird when I tried this ROM by Dark, or DAR3K. It starts the phone upside down. In fact, the whole menu system is upside down. What is going on here? What is this? Why does this even exist? Is this a troll? What is going on? Okay, I'm not really sure why someone would do this to their phone. The monochrome also seems inverted, which that's kind of cool. And the main screen has a nice cat animation going on. And there's a large digital clock. And there's also some other custom indicator mods going on here. And the shutdown animation, that's kind of cool too. This custom ROM by Froster is pretty cool. It looks like it's got a Matrix style startup. And I think they might like beer. The menu button has an icon of a phone beside it. Nice. And the launcher is a grid-based icon system. This is a really nice and clean and functional interface. I really like it. Though perhaps not as cool as the graphical launcher with the tree we saw earlier, it's still pretty good. These were all made at the very start of full phone personalization and custom ROM development. There was also a custom ROM scene happening with the Nokia 3310 around the same time. I've explored that a bit in a previous video, but I get the impression there was more of this activity on the SL45, even though there were more Nokia phones around at the time. The SL45 just did it better. There's two more patches I want to try. They're called File Access Modification and Binary File Access. These appear to change how files are accessed on the multimedia card to allow the phone to run binary files directly from the card as if they were part of the phone's firmware. This allows writing much more complex software that can be fit into the limited free space of the flash memory. Here's one program. It's called Analog Clock. Notice these binary files load instantly, unlike Java apps which can take 5 or even 10 seconds to load into the Java sandbox to run. This also means you can do things that you can't do from inside the Java sandbox. For example, overclocking the CPU, which normally runs at 13 MHz. There's a binary here to run the CPU at 26 MHz. Technically, this is not overclocking though, because as I understand it, the CPU can run at both speeds. and the Java Sandbox normally runs the CPU at the faster 26 MHz. I was able to find a few more of these native binary programs. Here's a screensaver called Billiard Ball. Here's a puzzle game called Sokomin with that familiar puzzle style game. And there's a couple of other very simple games. Now, it's a fair question to ask if this phone can run Doom. And that question was asked in the previous video's comments. So, could this phone run Doom on the 80C166 CPU running at 26 MHz? Maybe even using a 4-level Greyscale mode, like the one used by the tech demo video player. Unfortunately, I'm not experienced enough to know if a port would actually be possible. But depending on how much RAM is available, I suspect it could be done. I'm adding this phone to the many devices I've shown on this channel that could in theory run Doom, but which currently don't have any ports available. Does Doom run on everything? Well, not yet it doesn't. There were some good comments and suggestions from the previous video. Thanks to everyone who leaves comments. I do read all the comments and reply to as many as I can. For this video, I did try some demo scene demos to see what would happen. As expected, most didn't run because they require a later version of the Java standard. But there are a couple that work. 1K Rainbow, for example, notable for its rainbow effects and done in under 1K, runs fine. It's just this monochrome screen that results in us not actually seeing any colours. Oh well. Also, Project LCD runs, again, not exactly running properly, but a valiant effort from the sandbox nonetheless. There was an interesting comment about a scene demo created specifically for the SL45. This demo appears to be written in Java and it's really cool. And I'm glad I caught this comment because YouTube decided to hide it. Why did YouTube hide this comment? Because it contains a link to another YouTube video. In fact, if you put a link in a comment that goes outside YouTube, YouTube deletes the comments before I can even see it. Unfortunately, there's not much I can do about this. As these videos get more complex, I'm finding myself relying more on your support. Just knowing you're liking and enjoying these videos is awesome. Thank you. But some people give extra support on Patreon or memberships and super thanks. This really helps me to keep things going around here. If you find yourself watching my videos in the future, then consider a small donation can make a big difference. Or just keep liking and sharing and continue to tell me what you think. Because the best part of making these videos is seeing them being enjoyed by everyone who stays until the end. Thank you. But that's it for the moment, and I'll see you next time.